Hi, boys and girls. I told you last week that we are going to start learning about poetry in writing. So whenever we start a new unit in writing, I like to always show you examples first. And so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to read you several poems, and then we're going to talk about what we notice that those poems have. Okay? And then you at home are going to look through a couple of collections that I have assigned to you on Epic, to look through and write down some other things that you notice about poetry that are maybe different than mine. They could be the same, but try to find some things that are different. And then I'll add the things that you found to our chart before I actually start teaching you about different types of poetry. All right, so I'm going to start with this poem right here. So this is a book of poems, okay? So it's not like a book that you would read cover to cover. It's got like a different poem on every couple pages. So here's this one. The Turkey Shot Out of the Oven is the name of the poem. The turkey shot out of the oven and rocketed into the air. It knocked every plate off the table and partly demolished a chair. It ricocheted into a corner and burst with a deafening boom, then splattered all over the kitchen, completely obscuring the room. It stuck to the walls and the windows. It totally coated the floor. There was turkey attached to the ceiling where there'd never been turkey before. It blanketed every appliance. It smeared every saucer and bowl. There wasn't a way I could stop it. That turkey was out of control. I scraped and I scrubbed with a displeasure and thought with chagrin as I mopped that I'd never again stuff a turkey with popcorn that hadn't been popped. I wasn't expecting that ending. Okay, so in this book, you probably noticed there was, well, this poem, I should say, there was a little bit of rhyming, wasn't it? Chair, air, boom, room. So some of the words rhymed. So sometimes, not always, sometimes poems rhyme. Okay? Sometimes poems rhyme. Not always, but sometimes. Okay? This poem also, if you noticed, when I was reading it, I kind of had a little beat. Listen. The turkey shot out of the oven and rocketed into the air. It knocked every plate off the table and partly demolished a chair. You see, I can kind of keep going. It's got a little beat to it, doesn't it? Almost like a song, right? Poetry does that sometimes. It has a beat. Okay? And so, because it has a beat, we read poetry differently. But it takes a while for us to learn how to read poetry. And sometimes you have to read the same poem over and over and over again before you can figure out how to read it correctly. So it might have a rhythm, and that's kind of a tricky word for Mrs. Kimmel to spell sometimes. Rhythm. Does that look right? Maybe. I'll have to double check. And I can fix it, because you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. All right, so that's that book. Let's try another poem. This one's called Cuckoo. It's from this book about poems by Jack Prelutsky. He writes a lot of really good ones. So this one's called Cuckoo. The cuckoo in our cuckoo clock was wedded to an octopus. She laid a single wooden egg and hatched a cuckoo clockopus. So this one is silly, right? It rhymes a little bit. But it's mostly silly, and it has a made-up word in it. And poems can have that also, so let's write that down. They can be silly. They can have made-up words. Right? Yeah, they can. Okay, let's look at this one. This one is also in a collection of poems by Jack Prelutsky, all about Valentine's Day. I love you more than applesauce, than peaches and a plum, than chocolate hearts and cherry tarts, and berry bubble gum. I love you more than lemonade and 7-layer cakes, than lollipops and candy drops and thick vanilla shakes. I love you more than marzipan, than marmalade on toast. Oh, I love pies of any size, but I love you the most. So that one's kind of funny. It kind of tells a little bit of a story. It also has a rhyme. So sometimes it can have a little bit of a story. A little bit. right? Okay? Look at this one. This one's called the Kungal Jing. What is a Kungal Jing? I bet you'll catch on. Let's see if you can. Oh, I'm the Jing of the Kungal, Runny roared to one and all, when he wore his coins lostume to the Wallowheen Bostum call. But there he met a Leal Ryan, who said, "You'd best cake tear, and do not start believing that, or you're the costume that you wear." Okay, so what they did here, instead of Kungal Jing, it should have said Jungle King. So they are moving the first letter of one word and trading it with the first letter of another word. Like instead of lion's costume, they said Kyan's lostume. Okay? So they're tricking you. So they're doing silly things with words. So sometimes they don't follow rules, right? Poems sometimes don't follow normal writing rules. I'm going to say break the rules. Okay, Mrs. Kimmel wrote down 6 things that she noticed. I want to see if you can notice some other things. And some things I want you to really pay attention to. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give you something to look for. Pay attention to how they are made. Pay attention to how they're made. Think about how they look compared to a regular book or a regular look at them. Okay, listen to them. Some of the poems in the collection are going to be too hard for you to read. Okay, that's okay. You could ask a parent to help you. Not all of them are read aloud. Some of them are read aloud. So if you want, you could just pick the read aloud ones to look at. But you're going to learn something by just looking at how the poem is made, how the words are there, how the sentences are there, how they fit on the page. Okay, so look for that stuff too, because you might find something special to be able to share with us for you to write on your noticing chart. Okay, so your assignment, I'm going to link you to collections on it. Well, I'll probably just tell you in the directions to go to Epic and go to the mailbox and find the poetry collections. And you're going to look at those, write down some things that you notice. See if you can find at least one thing that's not on my chart. Okay?